I want to share with you 6 different lessons that I've learned after about 6-ish months working full-time after college as a new graduate. Hi, I'm Laura and welcome to my channel where I share more about my life as a PM, life working in tech, and others computer science advice. The transition between being a student your whole life and then finally going to work in industry is a pretty vague and ambiguous experience. I wanted to share these lessons in hopes of easing some of your worries or anxieties about moving full-time, and as well as how you can best prepare yourself for this transition. The first lesson that I learned is that there is a lot of time for you to get up to speed as a new grad and to start contributing. Think about stepping into industry for a second. There are people who have careers longer than my lifespan and your lifespan as well, so take a second to realize that you know very little compared to people who have been in the field for 30-something years. People really don't expect that much from you as a new grad because they understand that you're a new grad. I'm sure that there is a handful of new grads that do have relevant experience and have this amazing resume, but for the vast majority of us, that simply isn't true. Talking with a few other people from the industry, they said that their ramp-up period is anywhere between 3 to 6 to 9 months, so use that as a pretty relative gauge of where you should be after onboarding. Of course, this will depend a lot depending on your team, the complexity of your work, and what is overall expected from you from your manager, so make sure to have those conversations early on to make sure you're on track. I also want to highlight that it's important to spend the time to get adjusted to company culture and the way that you work at that company. The people that you work with on your teams or on your sister teams are going to be some of the most valuable people to you because you're going to be working with them so often. Establishing a solid work relationship is really helpful for 2 key reasons. One is that you can start to rely on these people for solid performance feedback, and 2 is that you just feel less alone if you like the people that you work with. The second lesson that I learned is that it's important to figure out what's important to you. People value different things, which means they go to different companies in the end, and what works for one person may not always work for you. A few of these things that people value include work-life balance, pay, benefits like insurance, career advancement, company prestige, etc. And each of these are in and of itself very valid reasons to choose one company over another. If you're recruiting right now as a new grad and you have a handful of offers, whether that be for internships or for a new grad position, take the time to evaluate each of these in alignment with your values that I just mentioned and see where they fit on the overall scale. There's a great ranking hierarchy I saw in a video by Colors of Chloe, another PM here on YouTube, where she describes how she went through her job offer process. This is a great way to figure out which values mean the most to you, as well as how that applies to each of the companies that you're going to be evaluating moving forward. Again, each of these values are valid in and of itself, so if you rank pay as the highest, then so be it. You can usually find some of this information online through sites like Glassdoor, but also consider looking at places like Team Blind to find some more specific details about plans that you may not know of. Please note that I am not endorsing the use of Blind, but it can be handy for specific questions. The third lesson that I learned is that I struggled a lot with my identity post-college graduate. A lot of my time in college revolved around homework, clubs, extracurricular activities for those clubs or other classes, and spending time with friends that I met through classes. Now, a lot of that has suddenly disappeared around me as I moved to an entirely new space, lost contact with a lot of friends, and have to deal with the pandemic as well. Also, moving to a new city definitely adds a layer of complexity because you just know no one and it's really a blank slate to get started with. While I'm still fundamentally the same person as I was 7 months ago, I've also been able to explore a lot of different things that I haven't been able to prior. I feel like at the new grad level, a lot of time is spent around food and drink, which is totally fine with me, but it can get really costly and add up a lot. Post-college, I've been able to explore indoor rock climbing, mechanical keyboard building, and I really want to get back into coding as an overall hobby because I haven't touched much code since, and I also want to get back into portrait photography, which is a great creative outlet for me as well. Ultimately though, it's really in your hands to explore your identity after college, figure out what resonates with you and figure out what doesn't resonate with you anymore, and how you can build communities around your new interests. The fourth lesson is that it's a lot harder to make friends after college. This is a little bit similar to point 3, so I won't hash on it too long, but overall, I found that it takes a lot more energy to really develop a friendship than it did in college. Circling back to my earlier point about industry, again, people are in very different stages because people have been here from 0 to 30-ish years in industry. It's probably going to be pretty hard to hang out with our principal PM from your team that's been here for 35 years right off the bat, but nothing's off the table. At the end of the day, it's just luck of the draw if you end up on a younger demographic team or a older demographic team. Of course, that's not to say that the people on your team have to be your best friends by any means, but it is your first kind of contact with other people outside of college. I really utilized earlier in career communities though to find people with similar interests as me and also of a similar age group. Utilize these to the best of your advantage and seek out opportunities to build these communities if they don't already exist. The fifth lesson is that it's really important to celebrate and enjoy the end of college and graduation. After you graduate college, this is one of the few times in which you really have proper time off with no responsibilities until you do start full-time work. If you do have the opportunity to do so and the financial stability, please take the time to do something exciting, fun for yourself, and, before you spend the next 20 to 40 years of your life working. Of course, this isn't to say that you can't take time off when you're working, but it really just hits different, to say the least. I don't really have time to do this because of the pandemic, but whether it's 2022 or 2024 and the pandemic is mostly over, please live your life to the fullest and do something fun and exciting. The sixth and last lesson that I learned is that work-life balance is a lot easier to find when it comes to working full-time versus when I was a student. As a student, work kind of just envelops you. You have homework with lingering deadlines and you have exams on certain set dates, but you can always be studying for that exam or quiz that's upcoming. As such, it made it really hard for me to really separate when work time was and when not work time was. Even though I blocked off my calendar to have specific work sections, I always kind of had the guilt of, I could work a little bit more on this assignment or study a little bit harder for this quiz that's coming up tomorrow. And thus, I really didn't have a great work-life balance or separation of schoolwork and personal life. If you do resonate with that though, then I am glad to announce that work-life balance and separation is a lot easier to achieve after working full-time. I think that having two separate laptops or workstations is really influential in terms of helping with the work-life balance separation. I have a separate work laptop in which I have all my work things on, and then I also have my personal laptop in which I have none of my work things on. When I'm on my work laptop, I'm working, but when I pick up my personal laptop, I could be doing anything from browsing the internet to editing YouTube videos to doing whatever. I physically can leave the work laptop behind, and I also don't have any of my work items on my phone or laptop such as Teams or anything like that. Once you've kind of established your work hours, you start to get a sense of when you're able to leave your work laptop physically and move on with your day. I really do feel like though that time flies after work, so utilize your time as best as you can and whatever makes it most fun and enjoyable for you. Remember though that you don't need to always be productive during your off time. You should do whatever makes you most happy at that moment in time. Those are 6 of the lessons that I learned after working full time for about 6 months. Overall, I definitely enjoy the feeling of working full-time more than being a student just because there's a little bit more to strive for rather than just tacking down the next assignment. Let me know which one of these lessons resonates the most with you, and I'll see you all again next week for a brand new video. Bye!